Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today, I'm talking about the 1985 P. Roosevelt dime, a coin with a story that stretches from the busy production floors of the Philadelphia Mint all the way to the high-stakes world of elite coin collectors. Before we dive into the deep details, let's set the scene. The year was 1985, a year full of cultural energy in the United States. Madonna dominated the music charts, Back to the Future hit theaters, Ronald Reagan was in his second term as president, the first version of Windows had just been released, and the New York Mets were electrifying baseball crowds. But while all this excitement was happening, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing hundreds of millions of coins, including one dime design that had already been a familiar part of American life for decades, the Roosevelt dime. Although the Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946, dedicated to the beloved President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the coin still had surprises waiting to be discovered. One of those surprises is the astonishing fact that among the hundreds of millions of dimes minted in 1985, a tiny number, so tiny that collectors still debate how few exist, were struck so perfectly and preserved so exceptionally that they would one day stun the numismatic world. These incredibly rare gems would soar to unimaginable value, turning a simple 10-cent piece into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. Now, most people imagine coin value rising from age or metal content. But the 1985 P. Roosevelt dime is not silver, and it isn't particularly old. What makes its most valuable example so special is something more subtle, something only serious collectors usually think about: condition. Imagine a coin that survived not only the minting process but also the decades that followed without falling victim to scratches, dents, bag marks, or even the slightest nick. Imagine a dime with a strike so sharp, so crisp, and so flawless that it looks almost as if it was frozen in time at the very moment it left the press. Coins like this exist in the numismatic world, but they are exceedingly rare. Working against them is the reality of how coins are produced. Dimes from the 1980s were minted in massive quantities, poured into bins, shipped in bulk, wrapped in paper rolls, and circulated endlessly. Even if a coin was struck perfectly, the chances of escaping rough handling were close to zero. That is exactly what makes the highest-graded 1985 P. Roosevelt dime so extraordinary. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 1 billion dimes that year, but only a microscopic fraction remain in perfect or near-perfect condition. Most are worn, scratched, or dull from years of use. Only a few lucky survivors ended up tucked away, maybe in a mint set, a forgotten drawer, or a collector's hoard, untouched for decades, waiting to be rediscovered. Now, here's where the story becomes exciting. Collectors love the Roosevelt dime series, but they especially love high-grade examples graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. These organizations use specialized equipment, high-level expertise, and strict standards to assign numerical grades to coins. For modern dimes, a grade at the top of the scale, like Mint State 68 or the almost mythical Mint State 69, can turn a common coin into a financial powerhouse, and that is exactly what happened with one of the finest known examples of the 1985 P. Roosevelt dime. Imagine the moment a coin collector, or maybe even a casual hobbyist, submitted a simple 1985 P dime for grading. Maybe it came from an old mint set, maybe it was saved by sheer luck. The coin passed through the hands of expert graders, who inspected it under bright lights and magnification. They examined the fields, checked the luster, studied the strike, and looked for the slightest imperfection, and then, they recognized what few had ever seen: a nearly flawless Roosevelt dime from 1985. This wasn't just a nice coin. It wasn't just high grade. It was a collector's dream, the kind of coin that sparks bidding battles, sets auction records, and makes headlines in numismatic circles. When this extraordinary piece finally entered an auction, collectors were ready. Bidding was fierce. The excitement grew as coin experts, investors, and enthusiasts watched the price rise higher and higher. What happened next is the heart of this entire story. That dime, a small, ordinary piece of currency worth just 10 cents, sold for a breathtaking amount. The final hammer price stunned everyone. It became one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever sold. It means that every coin you find in your pocket, every roll of dimes you open, and every forgotten jar of change sitting in a dusty corner might hold a secret treasure. While the odds are tiny, the thrill of the hunt is real. You never know when you might come across an exceptionally well-preserved dime, especially from the 1980s and 1990s, when large production runs and rough minting conditions made high-grade survivors extremely rare. Now, before we reveal the astonishing value that one of these 1985 P. Roosevelt dimes reached, let's take a moment to appreciate why collectors are so fascinated by coins like this. A high-grade modern coin captures a perfect frozen moment in history. It shows us what a coin originally looked like as it left the press, before the world could touch it, scratch it, or soften its shine. These coins are time capsules, windows into the craftsmanship and machinery of their era. When collectors see a near-perfect Roosevelt dime, they're not just buying a coin. They're buying history. They're buying rarity. They're buying the idea that out of more than 1 billion coins, one single piece managed to emerge nearly flawless. It's the same appeal that drives people to treasure rare stamps, pristine comic books, and first-edition novels signed by the author. Condition can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. So back to the heart of this story, the 1985 P. Roosevelt dime that shocked the coin world. This coin is living proof that even the youngest collectors, even those beginning with pocket change, can stumble onto something incredible. It's a reminder that not all treasures are ancient. Not all treasures are gold or silver. Sometimes, a treasure is a tiny copper-nickel dime minted in a year not far behind us, carrying no precious metal, no special design, no historical commemoration, just the right combination of rarity, luck, and perfection. We're diving into one of the most surprising and fascinating topics in modern U.S. coin collecting, a tiny, everyday piece of change that most people never think twice about, the Roosevelt dime. But not just any dime. We're talking about the 1994 United States of America Roosevelt one-dime coin, a coin that hides a story far more interesting than its small size suggests. That if you've ever emptied your pockets, sorted through spare change in your car, or opened a jar full of coins that's been sitting on a shelf for years, you probably passed by dozens of dimes without even noticing them. After all, the dime is the smallest circulating coin in U.S. currency, and for most people, it's just 10 cents. But for collectors, for treasure hunters, and for people who understand how rare errors and high-grade examples can change everything, that 10-cent coin can transform into hundreds, thousands, or even, on extremely rare occasions, tens of thousands of dollars. The 1994 dime is a perfect example of how something so ordinary can become extraordinary. Today we're exploring why this coin can become valuable, how minting issues create rare collectibles, what to look for in your own pocket change, and of course, the jaw-dropping amount that one incredibly rare 1994 dime once sold for. So, if you're ready to discover the hidden power inside a coin you might have overlooked your whole life, stay with me, because this story might just inspire you to look at your spare change in a completely different way. Let's begin by looking at the coin itself. The 1994 Roosevelt dime continues the long tradition of honoring President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose profile has been featured on the dime since 1946. His image was chosen to commemorate his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, as well as his founding of the March of Dimes, which helped fight polio. Today, his portrait remains one of the most recognizable designs in American currency. The year 1994 might not stand out in history as a year of major coin redesigns or rare metal compositions. Dimes minted in that era were, and still are, struck from a copper-nickel-clad alloy, not silver. In fact, millions and millions of them rolled off the presses. The Denver Mint, indicated by the little D mint mark, produced an enormous number of them. So why on earth would anyone care about a coin that was made in such high quantity? The answer lies in two factors that always capture the attention of collectors: condition and errors. Even among millions of coins, only a microscopic number survive in perfect, pristine condition. And in the world of numismatics, perfection means everything. Most coins go straight into circulation, getting scratched, worn down, dropped, scraped by keys, rubbed by fingers, thrown into jars, and tossed into cash registers. Over time, they lose their original mint luster. They lose sharpness in details. tiny scratches appear. They develop toning, discoloration, or even damage, but every now and then, a coin avoids all of that. Maybe it was part of a mint set. Maybe it was saved by someone who never realized its future value. Maybe it slipped through the cracks and stayed untouched for years. These coins, the ones that retain almost perfect surfaces, become extremely valuable when sent to professional grading services like PCGS and NGC. The absolute highest grades, such as MS-68 or MS-69, are the ones that collectors dream about, because even a single grade point difference can mean thousands of dollars in value. Then, we have error coins. Error coins are some of the most interesting and collectible items in modern coinage. Errors can happen when the mint makes mistakes such as off-center strikes, double dies, wrong planchets, missing mint marks, and many more. Even though the mint tries to maintain quality, errors slip through from time to time, and collectors are willing to pay serious money for them. The 1994 D dime is known to have several very interesting error varieties. Some have dramatic off-center strikes, some have incorrect metal planchets, and others show doubling in the design. Because error coins are rare by nature, their scarcity combined with high demand from collectors helps push their value upward. Remember, rarity in coin collecting isn't always about age, it's about how few examples exist and how desirable they are. Now imagine a perfect storm, a 1994 D dime that not only survives in almost flawless condition, but also carries a rare error. That's when we enter the world of truly astonishing auction results. This is how a dime minted in 1994, something you could have found in your pocket change, ended up commanding a value that would shock almost anyone who thinks 10 cents is just 10 cents. One of the most remarkable things about this story is how unpredictable coin collecting can be. A modern coin, produced within the past few decades, not made of silver or gold, and originally worth 10 cents, can suddenly become a hidden treasure. And people all across the country are now checking their own dimes, hoping they too might stumble upon a rare example worth thousands. To understand why these coins reach such high values, we also need to appreciate the world of auctions. When a coin goes up for sale at a major numismatic auction, collectors from around the world compete for it. They look at rarity, grade, beauty, demand, and how few of these coins exist. If multiple collectors want the same exceptional coin, the price can skyrocket in minutes, and that's exactly what happened with an extraordinary 1994 D Roosevelt dime that became one of the most valuable examples ever recorded. This particular coin had the right mix of rarity, grading quality, and collector attention. When it hit the auction block, the bidding intensified quickly. What started as a modest opening bid rapidly escalated into the kind of number that turns a small piece of metal into a life-changing surprise. The final hammer price stunned onlookers and instantly cemented this dime as a legend among modern coin collectors. Now, before we reveal that astonishing amount, let's walk through what you should look for if you're hoping to find a valuable 1994 D dime in your own change. First, examine the mint mark. It should be a tiny D located near the date. Next, look for sharp, crisp details, especially in Roosevelt's hair, the torch, the olive branch, and the oak branch on the reverse. Any signs of wear, dullness, or scratches will lower the grade. You'll also want to check for errors. Off-center strikes are visually obvious, part of the design will be missing or shifted. Double die varieties can be seen by looking closely at the lettering or numbers to see if there's any shadowing or doubling. Wrong planchet errors are extremely rare, but if your coin looks thinner, thicker, lighter, or heavier than a normal dime, it might have been struck on a different type of metal. Finally, if your coin looks exceptional, consider submitting it to a professional grading service. Even if it doesn't end up being ultra-rare, it might still be worth far more than face value. And now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the amount that one of the rarest and highest quality 1994 D Roosevelt dimes ever sold for. This record-setting sale shocked collectors and remains one of the most talked about modern dime sales in recent history. Journey takes us deep into the world of numismatics, where something as small as a dime can hold a powerful combination of history, rarity, and mystery. And in this episode, we're exploring one of the most intriguing modern coins ever to capture collectors' imaginations, the United States of America 2007 P Mint Roosevelt 1 dime coin. At first glance, a 2007 Roosevelt dime may appear so ordinary that most people wouldn't think twice before dropping it into a vending machine or letting it rattle inside the bottom of a car cup holder. But not all coins are created equal, and sometimes a single example from a common year can rise above the rest, standing out due to a rare flaw, an unexpected production anomaly, or a breathtakingly high-grade preservation that makes it far more valuable than its humble 10-cent face value would ever suggest. So, what makes certain 2007 P Roosevelt dimes special enough to command intense attention from collectors? What specific details transform a modern circulation strike into one of the most sought-after pieces of contemporary American coinage? And how could a coin worth just a dime end up being valued in the thousands? That's what we're diving into today. Let's begin with the basics. The Roosevelt dime has been circulating since 1946, replacing the Mercury dime in honor of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Over the decades, billions of them have been struck at multiple United States mint facilities. By 2007, both the Philadelphia and Denver mints were routinely producing huge quantities of these coins for everyday use. The 2007 P dime alone had a mintage in the hundreds of millions, making it a very common issue in general circulation. But even in such a large pool of coins, some exceptional examples quietly emerged, coins that, whether by accident, by extraordinary preservation, or by an unexpected error in production, became numismatic treasures. Collectors know that modern coins can be tricky. While older coins often gain value simply due to age and scarcity, modern coins become valuable primarily because of rarity in the highest grades or because of spectacular minting errors. For the 2007 P Roosevelt dime, both of these factors come into play. One major reason some of these coins have soared in value is their condition. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use highly precise standards to evaluate coins. A difference of 1 grade point, even between top-tier levels such as MS67 and MS68, can dramatically shift a coin's market value. In 2007, the Philadelphia Mint produced dimes quickly and in mass quantities, which meant that many left the mint with tiny abrasions, contact marks, or slight scrapes from the production line. Finding an example that escaped all that is like spotting a perfect diamond in a mountain of stone. Another fascinating factor behind certain 2007 P Roosevelt dimes is the emergence of rare minting errors, unexpected and unintentional variations created during the striking process. These errors might include off-center strikes, doubled dies, broad strikes, die clashes, or improperly mixed planchets. Because error coins are seldom repeated and often happen in tiny quantities, collectors treat them like miniature puzzles from the mint itself. Each one is unique, each one tells a story, and each one can carry significant value depending on its visibility and rarity. And then there are the exceptionally high-grade gems. Imagine a 2007 dime preserved so flawlessly that even under strong magnification, the fields and details seem untouched. A coin like that was never tossed into pockets, never slid across countertops, never clinked against keys or other coins. Instead, it survived in pristine condition, perhaps sealed away in mint-set packaging or discovered in an untouched roll. Examples that reach the highest mint state levels can be astonishing in their visual appeal, with radiant luster and sharply struck features. Now picture a collector who has searched through thousands of examples, hunting for that one shining specimen worthy of a top-grade certification. When one is found, it instantly stands out as a rarity, not because the year is old, or the mintage is low, but because achieving that level of perfection is almost impossibly difficult. For the 2007 P Roosevelt dime, one such extraordinary coin did exactly that. It captured the attention of experts, achieved an elite grade level, and ultimately commanded a price that stunned even seasoned collectors. This wasn't a coin centuries old, nor one made from precious metals. It was a modern dime, remarkable because of its perfection and rarity among its peers. As collectors discovered this standout example, it quickly became clear that not all 2007 Roosevelt dimes are created equal. Some remain worth just their face value. Others may fetch a few dollars due to minor errors or attractive condition. But the highest grade survivors, the ones so sharp and clean they appear as though they were struck moments ago, can soar to extraordinary heights. this is why collectors are constantly encouraged to check their pocket change, coin rolls, or old coin jars. Even modern circulating coins can hold hidden treasure if you know what to look for. And with modern minting becoming so consistent and machine-perfect, genuine high-grade rarities or dramatic errors are becoming harder to find each year. That means when one surfaces, collectors compete fiercely to own it. As we continue to explore this topic, it's also helpful to understand how professional grading influences value. Coins graded at the highest mint state levels must undergo a meticulous evaluation process. Experts examine strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and eye appeal under powerful magnification. For a mass-produced coin like the 2007 dime, the vast majority fall into moderate grades, acceptable for circulation but nowhere near gem quality. That's what makes a top-tier example so exceptional. Imagine looking at thousands of coins and finding only one that meets the strictest standards. That's the level of rarity that sparks bidding wars, drives prices upward, and creates legends in the numismatic world. All of this leads to the central point collectors love to talk about: the value achieved by one particular 2007 P. Roosevelt dime at auction. This wasn't a hypothetical estimate or a projection of what the coin might be worth someday. It was a real sale, a moment when a modern dime crossed into the realm of elite collectibles, proving that even a coin minted within our lifetime can command staggering value under the right conditions. Collectors were astonished, dealers reported a surge of interest, and coin roll hunters began searching their stashes with renewed excitement. Stories like these fuel the passion of the numismatic community. They remind us that treasures still await discovery, even in the smallest and most unexpected places. So as you listen, imagine holding a simple dime, something most people ignore, yet knowing that somewhere out there, a nearly identical dime once sold for thousands. It changes the way you look at everyday coins. It sparks curiosity. It transforms a common object into a piece of potential history, and that brings us to the conclusion of today's story. After all the history, all the details, and all the excitement surrounding the remarkable 2007 P. Roosevelt one-dime coin, what collectors always want to know is this: what was that extraordinary dime actually worth? Today, we are diving deep into one such case, the 2021 P. Mint Mark Roosevelt dime from the United States of America. While millions were minted and distributed across the country, a small handful carry details, errors, or conditions that make collectors' hearts beat faster. This script unpacks the story, the history, the drama, and the unexpected worth that such a common coin can hide. To begin, imagine holding a dime that looks like every other dime you've ever seen. Small, silver-colored, light enough to flip with 2 fingers. But what if that dime, something the average person treats as nearly worthless, turns out to be worth more than a family vacation, a month's salary, or even a modest used car? That's the magic behind the Roosevelt dime collecting world, the extraordinary possibility hidden inside the ordinary. Let's take a moment to revisit the creation of this iconic coin. The Roosevelt dime was first minted in 1946, created to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's leadership and his association with the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio. The design featured his left-facing profile on the obverse, along with the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the mint year. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch symbolized liberty, peace, and strength. Even in 2021, long after its initial debut, the coin's design remained loyal to the original vision. The 2021 dime minted at the Philadelphia Mint, the one marked with the iconic P, was part of a large production run. The Philadelphia Mint produces many billions of coins annually, and the dime is one of its most common products. Under normal circumstances, a modern dime carries almost no premium value. But coin collectors know that rarity doesn't always mean low supply. Sometimes, rarity hides in the unusual details. Minting errors, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and extremely high-grade specimens create value in places no one expects. And the 2021 P. Roosevelt dime has produced some stunning surprises. So what makes this particular year and mint mark interesting? It actually starts with the state of the world during 2021. The United States Mint, like many government institutions, faced production challenges, staffing shortages, and intense pressure to keep up with circulating coin demand during the nationwide coin shortage. Increased stress on machinery, faster production speeds, and fewer quality control pauses meant that mistakes, rare little treasures, were more likely to occur. These conditions created exactly the kind of environment where an unexpected numismatic gem could slip through the cracks and into circulation. Collectors began noticing unusual examples of Roosevelt dimes being submitted to grading companies. Some displayed micro-errors, such as slight die clashes, faint doubling on the motto, and subtle weakness in strike. Others showed more dramatic anomalies, off-center strikes that left part of the design cut off, dimes struck on improperly prepared planchets, and even a few that seemed to have remnants of die polishing that gave parts of the coin a ghostly texture. A few of these oddities made their way to auctions, and that is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Imagine a coin collector opening a small cardboard roll of dimes purchased from a bank or picked up from a grocery store. They expect nothing special, maybe they're collecting for fun, searching for silver, or simply trying to complete a date and mint mark album. But then, they spot something unusual. The rim looks different. The strike seems unusually sharp. The coin looks cleaner, crisper, more detailed than anything else in the roll. They take a closer look. Under magnification, the lettering pops with extraordinary clarity, the fields look flawless, and the luster seems to swirl like liquid silver under the light. Without knowing it, they have discovered a nearly perfect example of a modern dime, one of the very few that would later grade at the highest professional levels. High-grade modern coins are much rarer than the average person might think. Yes, billions are minted, but most of them experience small nicks, scratches, bag marks, and handling wear before they ever reach the public. To find one in pristine, untouched, almost flawless condition is like discovering a glass sculpture in a room full of baseballs, technically possible, but nearly impossible in practice. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC sometimes award extremely high grades such as MS-68, MS-69, or on very rare occasions MS-70 to coins that survive in perfect or near-perfect condition. And those high grades can create shockingly high values, especially for coins collectors didn't expect to be worth anything. In the case of the 2021 P. Roosevelt dime, one of the most astonishing auction results came when a superb example in extraordinary condition sold for a dramatic price. Collectors were stunned, not because rare old coins sell for huge sums, but because a coin from 2021, a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the ground, had broken into the realm of four-figure and even five-figure value. Every time a modern coin sells for a large amount, it shakes the collecting community and reignites interest in pocket change hunting, but it wasn't just the condition that made this particular dime desirable. The coin showed features considered exceptional even by grading company standards: razor-sharp details, a flawless surface free of imperfections, intense mint luster, an eye appeal that seemed almost impossible for a modern circulation strike coin. When collectors see a coin like that, it becomes less about age and more about perfection, a kind of tiny metallic artwork that survived its journey through the minting process untouched by time, friction, or accidental damage. As word spread about the sale, more people began examining their pocket change. YouTube channels, blogs, coin forums, and collectors groups buzzed with conversation. Could there be more? What caused the value? Would others surface? The excitement helped spark a coin collecting revival, reminding a new generation that treasures still exist in everyday places. Collectors love stories like this because they represent possibility. They remind everyday people that you don't need to be a millionaire or own a vault full of ancient trophies to enjoy the thrill of numismatics. You can search through coin rolls from the bank, check your change after buying coffee, or inspect the coins in your kitchen drawer. Hidden gems are rare, but they are real, and they keep the hobby alive with excitement. This brings us back to the heart of our story, the unexpected value of a modern dime from 2021. People who see the headline number often ask, how can a 10-cent coin be worth that much? But value in numismatics isn't about the coin's original denomination. It's about rarity, condition, demand, historical interest, and the emotion a collector feels when they see something extraordinary. A perfect example of a modern dime is rarer than many people imagine. And that rarity drives intense bidding from those who want the best of the best in their collections. It's also worth remembering that collectible value is not permanent. It rises and falls with market trends, collector interest, grading population reports, and auction performance. But when a coin reaches iconic status, like this highly graded 2021 P dime, it becomes part of numismatic history. Future generations of collectors will look back at it as a benchmark example of what a modern circulation strike coin can be. Now imagine presenting this story in a YouTube video. The visuals would be striking: a simple dime illuminated under bright lights, rotating slowly as the details shimmer. Close-ups of the torch, the lettering, the ridged edge. Then, images of auction rooms, grading slabs, professional coin photography, and excited collectors sharing reactions. The climax of the video would reveal the stunning price that this tiny piece of American currency reached, leaving viewers amazed that something so small could carry such unexpected worth. As we wrap up this script, the message is clear: never underestimate the value hidden in plain sight. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just enjoys the thrill of possibility, the world of coins reminds us that treasures are often found where we least expect them. Even the smallest coin can carry a story, a surprise, or a secret worth thousands of dollars.